First, though, 22 minutes to 8, bit of an update on the Bibby Stockholm barge, which is obviously in Portland Port. Earlier this week, the multi-agency platform, which supports operational planning for the vessel, published an update on the Dorset Council website stating that, amongst other things, asylum seekers on the barge, quote, prefer life on the barge compared to hotels. Volunteers in contact with the men on board called the claim outrageous and say the barge was prison-like with not enough food and no activities. We can talk to one of those volunteers, who is Portland Town Councillor and member of the Portland Global Friends Group, Giovanna Lewis, who joins me on the line now. Giovanna, good morning.
Good morning. Hello.
Appreciate you joining us. Let me read this full statement just so we've got it in context. It says, quotes, as the asylum seekers participate in more activities and meet more local people, it is increasingly clear from the feedback we're receiving from counsellors and others spending time with them that they are appreciative of the welcome and support they are receiving and prefer life on the barge compared to hotels. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, so we were prefer life on the barge compared to hotels. Well, we don't recognise that as a statement, really. We were quite surprised to read it and don't know where MAF, the multi-agency forum, actually got that from. Who are the councillors that they're quoting, or the residents? Because it's not, what we're experiencing. We can only go by, what we hear from the men. And, to be honest, I think a lot of them would go speedily back to the hotels from which they came, where many of them have spent, over a year or two and had already built up community links and volunteering opportunities and things to do. And they've been sort of thrust down here to restart all of that again, on top of, as you know, other issues, being really sort of housed in, what many people describe as a quasi-prison because of the security sort of...
You say many people. Is that what the men themselves are saying to you?
Well, it's a shock for many of them to come. And, a couple of, there was one guy who sort of put his wrists together as if he was being handcuffed and said, this is how I feel coming to the Bibby Stockholm. So initially, it's quite a shock for them. They can't leave the barge unless they go on a bus that goes in and out every hour. They cannot walk freely on and off that barge into the community. That's not freedom of movement, is it? So we're quite surprised. I mean, what we do find is, they have to, get on with it and they make the best of it, and they do that and they come to terms with it. But it's not a pleasant experience. And so I just don't know where they're happier here than they were in hotels has come from. We're all bemused by that, and nobody can trace where that's actually come from. I'd ask the MAF to let us know, really. We'd be interested.
We spoke to the MAF, as you call them, the multi-agency forum. They say we have heard from those working closest with residents on the barge that those living on board have made clear that life is more positive than in previous accommodation. All partners are working hard to offer various opportunities both on and off the vessel. The health and welfare of asylum seekers remains the utmost priority, and we work continually to ensure the needs and vulnerabilities of those residing on the vessel are identified and met. Giovanna, there's plenty more about this on the Dorset bit of the BBC News app. Just before we sign off, where are we at now with occupancy of the Bibby Stockholm? After the scare about the water quality, we heard about a couple of dozen going back on. It's now up over 100, isn't it?
Well, it's actually, the men were telling us yesterday that it's about 250, they believe at the moment. Yeah. And many of them, at the social that we have on the Thursday afternoon, was saying it feels like there's enough people on this barge at the moment. As you know, the numbers for the barge dropped, didn't they, after not just the Legionella scare, but the fire inspection that was had, and the numbers officially of what they could take dropped from 504 to 425. But we've heard that the Home Office still want to achieve 500. So if you've been on that barge and seen what it's like a rabbit warren, really. There was one guy yesterday who said, how can somebody share with me? They're too small, they're too small. Anyway, there we are. But what I will say about Portland Global Friendship Group is I think we're the people that have made the difference. When you talk about the community, we're the people that reach out and offer lots of things. So, for some of them, depending on where they've come from, they might not be used to that. We have risen to the challenge to make their lives as bearable as possible here.
Good to talk to you this morning, Giovanna Lewis, Portland Town Councillor and member of the Portland Global Friendship Group.